My sister destroyed my entire life with 3 words whispered to my fiancé at our engagement party. What she told him shattered everything I thought I knew about family loyalty, and when the lie detector results came back, nobody was prepared for what we discovered. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. The champagne bubbles tickled my nose as I raised my glass, looking out at the sea of familiar faces gathered in my parents' backyard. Twinkling lights hung between the oak trees, casting a warm glow over everyone I loved most in the world. My fiancé Jake stood beside me, his arm wrapped protectively around my waist, and for the first time in months, everything felt perfect. To Madison and Jake, my father called out, his voice carrying across the crowd. May your love story be everything mine and your mother's has been, and more. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. I felt Jake squeeze my hand, and when I looked up at him, his green eyes were sparkling with the same joy I felt bubbling up inside my chest. After 2 years of dating and 6 months of engagement planning, this moment felt surreal. In 3 weeks, I'd be walking down the aisle to marry my best friend. The party continued around us in a blur of congratulations, laughter, and the clinking of glasses. My college roommate Emma pulled me aside to gush about the wedding dress she'd helped me pick out, while Jake got swept into a conversation with my cousins about our honeymoon plans to Ireland. Everything was exactly as I'd imagined it would be. That's when I noticed my sister Chloe standing by the dessert table, her arms crossed and a strange expression on her face. She'd been quieter than usual all evening, which struck me as odd since she was typically the life of any party. Chloe had always been the extroverted twin. I was the cautious, methodical one who planned everything down to the smallest detail, while she was spontaneous and lived in the moment. Hey, you okay? I approached her, concerned by the way she kept glancing between me and Jake. Yeah, just tired from work, she said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Long week at the marketing firm. Before I could press further, Jake appeared at my side, slightly out of breath from being pulled into multiple conversations. Your family knows how to party, he laughed, adjusting his navy tie. I think your Uncle Robert just invited us to spend Christmas in Vermont. That sounds like him, I smiled, grateful for Jake's easy way with my relatives. It had been one of the things that made me fall for him. How effortlessly he fit into my world, making everyone around him feel comfortable and included. The evening progressed beautifully. My mother had outdone herself with the decorations, and the catered food was getting rave reviews from everyone. Jake's parents, who had driven up from North Carolina, were deep in conversation with mine about wedding logistics. His younger brother Marcus was teaching some of the kids a card game, and even my typically reserved grandmother was laughing at something my cousin Tyler had said. Around 10 o'clock, I excused myself to use the bathroom inside the house. The sudden quiet was a welcome relief from the cheerful chaos outside. I touched up my lipstick in the hallway mirror and took a moment to just breathe and appreciate how well everything was going. When I returned to the backyard, I immediately sensed something had shifted. The energy felt different, though I couldn't pinpoint why. Jake was standing near the patio doors, and even in the dim lighting, I could see tension in his shoulders that hadn't been there before. Everything all right? I touched his arm gently. He turned to look at me, and there was something in his expression I'd never seen before. A mixture of confusion and hurt that made my stomach drop. We need to talk, he said quietly, his voice barely audible over the music and conversation around us. Now? Jake, the party's still going. Madison, please, just give me 5 minutes. The serious tone in his voice sent a chill through me despite the warm evening air. I followed him to a quieter corner of the yard, near my mother's rose garden where the party sounds became a distant hum. What's wrong? I asked, though part of me wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. Jake ran his hand through his dark hair, a nervous habit I'd seen countless times during stressful moments at his job. Someone just told me something about you, and I need you to be completely honest with me. My heart started racing. Told you what? About Atlanta. About what happened when you went there for that conference last month. The blood drained from my face. I knew exactly which conference he was referring to. The 3-day marketing summit I'd attended for my job at the advertising agency. It had been completely routine. full of boring presentations and networking events. I'd called Jake every night and texted him pictures of the terrible hotel breakfast and the view from my room on the 15th floor. "Jake, I have no idea what you're talking about. What exactly did someone tell you?" His jaw tightened. "That you weren't alone in that hotel room. That you were with someone else the whole time." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. "What? That's absolutely insane. Who told you that?" "Does it matter who told me? Just tell me the truth, Madison. Were you with someone else in Atlanta?" "No!" The word came out louder than I'd intended, causing a few nearby relatives to glance our way. I lowered my voice. "Jake, I can't believe you're even asking me this. You know me better than anyone. I would never, ever cheat on you." But even as I said the words, I could see the doubt flickering in his eyes. Someone had planted a seed of suspicion, and it was already taking root. "Then explain to me how someone would know specific details about your hotel room, about your schedule, about things that only someone who was there would know." I stared at him, my mind racing. "What kind of details?" "They knew you stayed an extra night. They knew you ordered room service on Thursday evening instead of going to the group dinner. They knew you were on the 15th floor in room 1547. Every detail he mentioned was accurate, which made the situation even more bewildering and frightening. Those weren't things I'd shared with many people, and certainly not details that would come up in casual conversation. "Jake, yes, all of that is true, but I was alone. I stayed the extra night because my flight got canceled due to weather. I ordered room service because I had a migraine and didn't want to sit through another networking dinner. And room 1547 was just the room the hotel assigned me." "Then how does this person know all of this?" The question hung between us in the evening air, and I realized I didn't have a good answer. The only people who knew those details were my immediate family, because I'd mentioned them in passing during our weekly family dinner the Sunday after I got back. That's when it hit me like a lightning bolt, my family dinner conversation. Chloe had been there, asking questions about the conference, seeming unusually interested in the specifics of my trip. At the time, I'd thought she was just being a supportive sister, curious about my work life. "Who told you this, Jake?" I asked again, though I was starting to suspect I already knew the answer. "I can't tell you that. They made me promise not to say anything, but they were so concerned about you, about us, that they felt they had to speak up." My hands were shaking now. "They were concerned about me?" "They said they saw you with someone, a man. They said you two seemed very close, very intimate. They said they debated for weeks whether to tell me, but they couldn't live with keeping it a secret." The betrayal I felt in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Not just the betrayal of being falsely accused of cheating, but the deeper, more cutting betrayal of realizing that someone I trusted completely had deliberately sabotaged my relationship. "Jake, please listen to me very carefully. I need you to tell me who said this to you, because whoever it was is lying, and I think I know why." Jake crossed his arms, his expression hardening. "Madison, you're deflecting. Just answer me honestly. Were you or were you not with someone else in Atlanta?" "I'm not deflecting. I'm trying to understand how someone could fabricate such specific lies about me." My voice was steady, despite the panic coursing through my veins. "Tell me who said this." "Your sister." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. Even though I'd suspected it, hearing it confirmed made my legs feel weak. I grabbed onto the garden fence for support. "Chloe told you I cheated on you?" "She didn't want to. She was crying when she pulled me aside 20 minutes ago. She said she'd been wrestling with whether to tell me for weeks, but she couldn't stand by and watch you deceive me." I felt like I was falling through space. My twin sister, the person who had shared a womb with me, who had been my closest confidant since childhood, had just destroyed my life with calculated precision. "Jake, she's lying. I don't know why, but she's lying." "Why would Chloe lie about something like this? She loves you." "She was a mess telling me. She kept apologizing and saying she wished she'd never seen what she saw." "What exactly did she claim she saw?" Jake's jaw worked as if he was struggling with the words. "She said she was in Atlanta that same weekend for a client meeting. She said she saw you in the hotel lobby with a man, holding hands, kissing. She said she followed you to the elevator and saw you get off on the 15th floor together." A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, We'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. My mind reeled. The story was so detailed, so convincing that I could understand why Jake believed it. But it was also complete fiction. Chloe wasn't in Atlanta. She was here in Denver that weekend. She posted Instagram stories from her apartment, from her favorite coffee shop. She was complaining on Saturday about having to work on a presentation for Monday. She said she didn't post anything about the Atlanta trip because it was last minute and she didn't want her boss knowing she was taking client meetings without approval. I stared at him, realizing how thoroughly Chloe had prepared for this moment. She'd thought through every possible question, every potential hole in her story. Check her social media right now, I said desperately. Look at her posts from that weekend. Jake pulled out his phone, but after a few seconds he frowned. I don't see any posts from that weekend. Her last post before Monday was from the Thursday before you left. My blood turned to ice. She deleted the evidence. Chloe had actually gone back and deleted her social media posts from that weekend to support her lie. She deleted them, I whispered, more to myself than to Jake. Madison, you're starting to sound paranoid. Why would your own sister orchestrate some elaborate scheme to break us up? It was a fair question, and one I couldn't immediately answer. Chloe and I had always been close. We'd had the typical twin rivalry growing up, but nothing serious. She'd been genuinely excited when Jake and I got engaged. She'd helped me plan tonight's party, had insisted on giving a toast earlier in the evening. But then I remembered something that made my stomach turn. 3 months ago, Chloe had been going through a brutal breakup with her boyfriend of 2 years, Derek. She'd been devastated when he ended things, and she'd spent countless nights on my couch, crying about how she felt like she'd never find love, how she was tired of watching everyone around her get engaged and married while she remained single. Jake, I think this is about her breakup with Derek. She's been struggling since he left, and seeing us so happy, planning our wedding. Maybe it triggered something. So you think she made up an elaborate lie because she's jealous? His tone was skeptical. I think she's hurting and not thinking clearly. But Jake, I need you to believe me. I have never cheated on you. I love you more than I've ever loved anyone. For a moment, his expression softened, and I thought I'd gotten through to him. But then he shook his head. Madison, she had details. She knew about your room number, your schedule, what you wore to the conference sessions. She even knew about the migraine you had on Thursday night. Because I told her all of that. I told my whole family about the trip at Sunday dinner when I got back. She was asking me questions about everything. Where I stayed, what I did each day, what I ate. I thought she was just interested in my work life. Jake stared at me for a long moment, and I could see him wavering. There's only one way to settle this, I said, my voice stronger now. I'll take a lie detector test. What? You heard me. I'll take a polygraph test. If Chloe is so confident in what she saw, she can take one too. We'll both answer questions about what really happened that weekend. Jake looked stunned. Madison, that's extreme. No, what's extreme is my sister trying to destroy my relationship with lies. If she's telling the truth, she should have no problem proving it scientifically. I could see him processing this. The suggestion of a lie detector test had clearly caught him off guard. You'd really do that? I'd do anything to prove to you that I'm telling the truth. The question is, will Chloe? We stood there in the garden, the sounds of our engagement party continuing in the background, while my entire future hung in the balance. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was surrounded by everyone I loved most, celebrating what should have been the happiest moment of my life, while my world crumbled around me. I need to think about this, Jake said finally. What's there to think about? If you're not sure who's telling the truth, this is the perfect solution. It's just, Madison, the fact that we're even talking about lie detector tests on our engagement night is insane. He was right, but I was past caring about what was normal or appropriate. Jake, look at me. I stepped closer to him, taking his hands in mine. Do you really believe I could look you in the eyes every day for the past month? Plan our wedding, meet with the caterer and the florist, and pretend nothing happened? Do you think I could kiss you goodnight and tell you I love you while hiding something like that? His hands tightened around mine, and for the first time since this conversation started, I saw a flicker of the Jake I knew and loved. No, he said quietly. The Madison I know couldn't do that. Then trust Madison you know. Trust what you feel in your heart, not what someone else is telling you to believe. But Chloe seemed so genuine, so torn up about having to tell me. That's because she's a good actress. She's always been good at making people believe what she wants them to believe. As if summoned by our conversation, I caught sight of Chloe through the patio doors. She was standing in the kitchen, talking animatedly to my mother, gesturing with her hands in that way she did when she was telling a story. Even from a distance, I could see she was putting on a performance. There she is, I said, nodding toward the house. Let's go ask her right now if she'll take a lie detector test. Jake followed my gaze and then looked back at me, uncertainty written across his features. Madison, what if? What if what? What if she agrees and we discover I'm telling the truth? What if we find out my own sister tried to destroy the most important relationship in my life? Jake and I walked back toward the house, the weight of our conversation hanging between us like a storm cloud. The party was still in full swing, but everything felt different now. The laughter seemed forced, the music too loud, the twinkling lights almost mocking their cheerfulness. I pushed through the patio doors, Jake close behind me. Chloe was indeed in the kitchen with my mother, but as soon as she saw us approaching, her expression changed. The animated storytelling stopped mid-sentence, and something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe, or fear. Madison, honey, there you are, my mother said, oblivious to the tension. Chloe was just telling me about this new client at her firm. Sounds like a fascinating project. I'm sure it is. I kept my eyes locked on Chloe's face. Can I talk to you for a minute, privately? Chloe's smile faltered. Actually, I was just about to head home. I have an early morning tomorrow. It'll just take a minute. My mother sensed something was wrong. Is everything okay? You both look upset. Everything's fine, Mom, Chloe said quickly, just tired. Actually, Mom, everything's not fine. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. Chloe just told Jake that she saw me cheating on him in Atlanta. My mother's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the kitchen tile. The sound made everyone in the nearby vicinity turn to look at us. What? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Chloe's face went pale. Madison, I didn't want to. Didn't want to do what? Destroy my relationship? Ruin my engagement party? Tell lies about your own sister? They're not lies. Chloe's voice cracked, and tears started forming in her eyes. Do you think this was easy for me? Do you think I wanted to see what I saw? The kitchen had gone quiet. My father appeared in the doorway, along with Jake's parents and several other relatives. Our family drama was becoming a public spectacle. What's going on here? Dad asked, his voice stern in that way it got when he was about to mediate one of our childhood fights. Chloe is claiming she saw me with another man in Atlanta, I announced to the room. She's trying to convince Jake that I cheated on him. A collective gasp went around the kitchen. Jake's mother, Linda, put her hand to her chest. My grandmother, who'd been sitting at the breakfast bar, slowly stood up. Chloe Elizabeth, my grandmother said in the tone she reserved for serious occasions. Is this true? Chloe looked around the room at all the faces staring at her, and I watched her make a decision. Instead of backing down, she doubled down. I saw what I saw, she said, her voice gaining strength. Madison was with someone else. I watched them together for several minutes in the hotel lobby. They were holding hands, kissing. They got in the elevator together. You're lying, I said flatly. I'm not lying. God, Madison, why would I lie about something like this? Do you think I enjoy hurting you? I think you're jealous. I think Derek breaking up with you sent you into a spiral, and seeing Jake and me happy together made you want to destroy what we have. Chloe's tears were flowing freely now. How can you say that? How can you think so little of me? Because 3 hours ago, I trusted you completely. And now I find out you've been planning to sabotage my relationship for weeks. Jake stepped forward. Madison, maybe we should take this somewhere private. No, I said firmly. If Chloe wants to make accusations in front of everyone, we can resolve this in front of everyone too. I turned back to my sister. I proposed a solution to Jake, and I'm proposing it to you now. We both take lie detector tests. You can ask me any question you want about Atlanta, and I'll ask you the same questions. If you really saw what you claim you saw, you should have no problem proving it. The room fell completely silent. Even the sounds from the backyard party seemed muted. Chloe's eyes darted around the room, looking for support, for an escape, for anything. That's ridiculous. I don't need to prove anything. I know what I saw. Then prove it. Madison, lie detector tests aren't even admissible in court. They're not reliable. They're reliable enough. And if you're telling the truth, what do you have to worry about? My father cleared his throat. Girls, this is getting out of hand. Maybe we should all calm down and… No, Dad. I turned to face him. My engagement is being destroyed by accusations that I know are false. I'm not going to calm down until we get to the truth. Jake's father, Robert, spoke up. Madison, we've known you for 2 years. The idea that you would cheat on Jake is… He shook his head. It doesn't fit with who you are. Thank you, I said, grateful for his support. But Jake's mother looked torn. Chloe, why would you come forward with this if you weren't certain? Because I care about Jake, Chloe said, wiping her tears. Because I couldn't stand by and watch him marry someone who was deceiving him. But I'm not deceiving him. The words came out as almost a shout. Chloe, look me in the eyes and tell me you actually saw me with another man in Atlanta. She met my gaze, and for just a moment I saw something flicker there. Uncertainty, maybe guilt. But then her expression hardened again. I saw you, Madison. I saw you with him. Then describe him. Tell everyone what this mystery man looked like. Chloe opened her mouth, then closed it again. It was dark in the lobby, the lighting wasn't good. But you were close enough to see us holding hands and kissing? I was across the lobby. So you were far away in bad lighting, but you could clearly see intimate details? I know what I saw, she repeated, but her voice lacked conviction now. Jake was watching this exchange intently, and I could see him starting to notice the inconsistencies in Chloe's story. What was he wearing? I pressed. A dark suit. What color hair? Dark hair. Tall or short? Average height. Her answers were getting more vague, more generic. She was describing a composite of every business traveler in every hotel lobby across America. What about his face? Any distinguishing features? Madison, I told you, the lighting wasn't great. But you were certain enough to recognize me? To be sure it was actually me, and not some other woman who happened to look like me? The room was watching this back and forth like a tennis match. I could see doubt creeping into several faces, including Jake's. Chloe, my grandmother said gently, are you absolutely certain about what you're saying? My sister looked at our grandmother, the woman who had helped raise us, who had always been able to see through our childhood lies with uncanny accuracy. I'm certain, Grandma. But even as she said it, I could see the cracks forming in her facade. Her hands were shaking, and she kept glancing toward the door as if calculating whether she could make a run for it. All right, I said, my voice calm now. I'm calling a polygraph service first thing Monday morning. We'll both take tests, and we'll both answer the same questions under oath. Are you willing to do that, Chloe? The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. Chloe stood there, trapped by her own lies, surrounded by family members who were all waiting for her answer. Finally, she whispered, I need some air. And before anyone could stop her, she pushed through the crowd and ran out the back door into the night. The weight of that possibility settled between us like a physical presence. The back door slammed shut behind Chloe, leaving the kitchen in stunned silence. Everyone stared at the empty doorway where my sister had just fled, processing what they'd witnessed. Jake's father was the first to speak. Well, that was telling. My mother bent down to clean up the broken wine glass, her hands trembling. I can't believe this is happening, at your engagement party of all times. Mom, don't worry about that, I said, kneeling beside her to help with the glass shards. We can clean this up later. But she kept picking up pieces, tears starting to fall. This is supposed to be a celebration. Your sister, I just don't understand why she would. Dad put his hand on Mom's shoulder. Diane, let's leave the glass. We need to figure out what's really going on here. Jake stepped closer to me. Madison, the way she ran off when you mentioned the polygraph test. I know. I stood up, brushing off my dress. someone who's telling the truth doesn't run away when asked to prove it. My grandmother, who had been unusually quiet during the confrontation, walked over to the kitchen window that overlooked the backyard. "She's sitting in her car," she announced. "Just sitting there in the driveway." "Should someone go talk to her?" Jake's mother asked. "I'll go," Dad volunteered, but I stopped him. "No, Dad, let me handle this. She's my sister, and this is my mess to clean up." Jake grabbed my arm gently. "Madison, I'll come with you." "Actually, I think I should go alone. She might be more likely to tell the truth without an audience." The concern in Jake's eyes was obvious. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." I looked around the room at all the worried faces. "Can everyone just give us some space? Maybe keep the party going outside so people don't start asking questions?" My parents nodded, and slowly the kitchen began to empty. Jake lingered behind. "Madison, whatever she says out there, I want you to know something." He took my hands in his. "The way she reacted when you challenged her story, the way she couldn't answer basic questions about this supposed mystery man, I'm starting to believe you." Relief flooded through me, but it was mixed with anger at what we'd been put through. "I'm glad, but I still need to understand why she did this." "Be careful out there. She seems pretty unstable right now." I kissed him quickly and headed outside. The backyard was still full of party guests, most of whom seemed blissfully unaware of the drama that had just unfolded inside. I could see my cousin entertaining a group with some story that had everyone laughing. Chloe's silver Honda was parked at the end of the driveway, engine running. I approached slowly, not sure what state I'd find her in. Through the windshield, I could see her gripping the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. I tapped on the passenger window. She looked over at me, her mascara streaked down her cheeks, and after a moment's hesitation, unlocked the doors. I slid into the passenger seat. Going somewhere? I was thinking about it. Her voice was hoarse from crying. Without saying goodbye? That would be pretty rude, even for someone who just tried to destroy my relationship. She flinched at my words but didn't deny them. "Chloe, what is going on with you? Why would you make up something like this?" She stared out the windshield for a long time before answering. "You want to know the truth?" That would be refreshing. "I wasn't in Atlanta. I never saw you with anyone. I made the whole thing up." Even though I'd known it was a lie, hearing her admit it felt like a punch to the gut. Why? Because I'm tired, Madison. I'm tired of being the twin who can't get her life together. I'm tired of watching you succeed at everything while I mess up everything I touch. That's not true. Isn't it? She turned to look at me, her eyes red and swollen. You've got the perfect job, the perfect fiancé, the perfect wedding planned. Meanwhile, I can't even keep a boyfriend for more than 2 years, and my career feels like it's going nowhere. So you decided to sabotage my happiness? I don't know what I thought. Maybe that if Jake saw you weren't perfect, he'd realize you're just as flawed as the rest of us. I stared at her in disbelief. Chloe, that's insane and cruel. I know. Fresh tears started flowing. I know it's insane. I've been seeing a therapist since Derek left, and she thinks I have some kind of, what did she call it? Comparative depression, where I can't be happy unless I'm doing better than everyone around me. You've been in therapy this whole time? For 3 months. Dr. Harrison says I have deep-seated jealousy issues stemming from our childhood. Something about always being compared to you, always feeling like the, quote, less successful twin. This was news to me. Growing up, I'd always felt like Chloe was the more popular one, the more outgoing one, the one everyone gravitated toward. I had no idea you felt that way. Because you were busy being perfect. Perfect grades, perfect college experience, perfect career trajectory. Do you know what it's like to constantly be asked why I can't be more like my sister? Who asks you that? Mom, Dad, Grandma, aunts and uncles. Even Derek used to compare me to you, talking about how together you seemed, how you had your whole life planned out. I felt a stab of guilt. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. Because this isn't about you, Madison. This is about me being too weak to deal with my own insecurities like an adult. We sat in silence for a few minutes, the engine humming softly. The party continued in the background, but it felt like we were in our own isolated bubble. Chloe, You need to come inside and tell Jake the truth. You need to apologize to him and to everyone else. I know, but I'm scared. Scared of what? Scared that after tonight you'll never forgive me. Scared that I just destroyed our relationship permanently. I thought about that. She was right to be scared. What she'd done was unforgivable by most standards. She'd tried to destroy my relationship with malicious lies, had planned it out carefully, had been willing to let me lose the love of my life to satisfy her own twisted jealousy. But she was also my sister, my twin. We'd shared everything from the moment we were born. I'm furious with you, I said finally. I'm angrier than I've ever been at anyone in my entire life. What you did tonight could have ended my relationship permanently. She nodded, accepting my anger. But you're my sister, and if you're really getting help, if you're really working on these issues with your therapist, then maybe we can eventually get past this. Really? Eventually. Not today, probably not next month, but eventually. I looked at her seriously. But first, you need to come inside and face what you've done. You need to apologize to Jake, to our parents, to everyone who witnessed that scene in the kitchen. What if Jake doesn't forgive me? What if he calls off the wedding because he can't trust our family anymore? It was a valid concern. Even though Jake seemed to believe me now, the fact that my own sister had tried to sabotage us might be too much for him to overlook. Then we'll deal with that when it happens. But right now, the only way to start fixing this is to tell the complete truth. Chloe wiped her eyes and took a shaky breath. Okay, you're right. I need to face this. She turned off the engine, and we both sat there for a moment, preparing ourselves for what was coming next. Walking back to the house with Chloe felt like escorting a condemned prisoner to execution. Her confession in the car had lifted a weight off my shoulders, but now came the harder part, facing everyone she'd lied to and trying to salvage what was left of our engagement celebration. The backyard party was still going strong, but I could see clusters of relatives whispering among themselves, clearly aware that something dramatic had happened. My cousin Tyler caught my eye and raised his eyebrows questioningly, but I just shook my head and kept walking. Inside the house, we found our immediate family and Jake's parents gathered in the living room. The atmosphere was tense, with everyone speaking in hushed tones. When we entered, all conversation stopped. Jake stood up immediately, his eyes searching my face for answers. Everything okay? Chloe has something she needs to say to everyone. My sister stood beside me, visibly trembling. She tried to fix her makeup in the car, but her eyes were still red and puffy. She looked fragile, vulnerable. Nothing like the confident woman who had delivered her calculated lies an hour earlier. Chloe's voice cracked and she had to start again. I need to apologize to all of you, especially to Jake. Jake's expression was guarded. For what, exactly? For lying. About everything. I wasn't in Atlanta. I never saw Madison with anyone. I made it all up. The room erupted in shocked exclamations. My mother gasped and sank into her chair. Dad's face darkened with anger. Jake's parents exchanged bewildered looks. You made it up? Jake's voice was dangerously quiet. You mean you fabricated an entire story about Madison cheating on me? Yes. Chloe could barely get the word out. Why would you do something like that? This came from Jake's mother, Linda, who looked genuinely baffled. Chloe glanced at me and I nodded encouragingly. If she was going to confess, she needed to do it completely. Because I was jealous. Because I've been struggling since my breakup, and seeing Madison so happy made me want to destroy that happiness. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see my father's hands clenched into fists, my mother's tears flowing freely, and Jake's face cycling through emotions. Disbelief, anger, hurt. You were willing to destroy your sister's relationship because you were jealous? Dad's voice was ice cold in a way I'd rarely heard. I know how it sounds. I know it's unforgivable. You're damn right it's unforgivable, Jake said, standing up abruptly. Do you have any idea what you put Madison through tonight? What did you put me through? Jake, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry? Jake laughed bitterly. You're sorry? You made me question everything I thought I knew about the woman I love. You made me doubt her character, her integrity, her faithfulness. You almost destroyed our relationship with a calculated lie. I wasn't thinking clearly. I've been in therapy, and my doctor says—" "I don't care what your doctor says." Jake's composure finally cracked. "Being in therapy doesn't excuse what you did. Mental health struggles don't give you the right to destroy other people's lives." My grandmother, who had been silent through this entire exchange, slowly stood up. At 82, she commanded respect whenever she spoke, and the room fell quiet. "Chloe Elizabeth," she said in her stern but gentle way, "I am deeply disappointed in you. We raised you better than this." "I know, Grandma." "No, I don't think you do know. What you did tonight wasn't just lying, it was a betrayal of the deepest kind. You tried to destroy your sister's trust, her relationship, her future happiness. And for what? Because you couldn't handle your own pain like an adult?" Chloe began sobbing again, but Grandma wasn't finished. "Your grandfather and I went through difficult times in our 60-year marriage. We lost jobs, lost family members, faced financial hardship. But we never, ever tried to drag other people down with us. We supported each other, especially our family. I know I messed up." "You didn't mess up, child. Messing up is forgetting to pick up milk at the store. What you did was deliberate, calculated cruelty." The harshness of Grandma's words seemed to shock everyone, including me. She'd always been the peacemaker in our family, the one who smoothed over conflicts and encouraged forgiveness. Jake's father cleared his throat. "Chloe, I need to understand something. When you told Jake this story, you seemed genuinely upset. You were crying, you seemed torn up about having to share this information. Was that all an act?" "No, not entirely. I was upset. I felt terrible about what I was doing, but I couldn't seem to stop myself." "So you knew it was wrong while you were doing it?" "Yes." "And you did it anyway?" "Yes." Jake shook his head in disgust. "That makes it worse, not better. If you'd been delusional or truly believed what you were saying, that would be one thing, but you knew you were lying and you chose to hurt us anyway." My mother, who had been quietly crying, finally spoke up. "Chloe, how could you do this to your sister?" "To your twin? You two have always been so close." "That's part of the problem, Mom. We've always been compared to each other, and I've always come up short. Madison gets the better grades, the better job, the better relationship. I snapped." "So you decided to tear down what she'd built instead of working to build up your own life?" Dad's disappointment was evident in every word. "I wasn't thinking rationally." "No, you weren't." Jake sat back down, running his hands through his hair. "Madison, I owe you an apology. I should have trusted you completely from the beginning." "You don't need to apologize," I said. "The story Chloe told was detailed and convincing. It's understandable that you had doubts. But I know you, I know your character. I should have known immediately that something was wrong with her story." Jake's mother leaned forward. "What happens now? With the wedding, I mean?" It was the question everyone was thinking, but no one wanted to ask. Jake and I looked at each other, and I could see him wrestling with his thoughts. "I need some time," Jake said finally. "Not because I don't trust Madison," he added quickly, "but because I need to process what happened here tonight. The fact that Madison's own sister was willing to sabotage our relationship. It raises questions about family dynamics, about trust, about what our future might look like." My heart sank, even though I understood his position. "The wedding is in 3 weeks," my mother said quietly. "I know when the wedding is," Jake replied, more sharply than he probably intended. "I'm not saying we're calling it off. I'm saying I need to think about how to move forward from this." He stood up again and looked around the room. "I think I'm gonna head home tonight. This has been a lot to process." "Jake, wait." I started to follow him, but he held up his hand. "Madison, I love you. What happened tonight doesn't change that. But I need some space to wrap my head around all of this." He kissed my forehead gently and then left without another word. The front door closing behind him felt like a death knell for our engagement party. The silence after Jake left was suffocating. Our engagement party had turned into a funeral, and I was standing in the middle of it all, watching my carefully planned future crumble around me. "Madison, honey," my mother started, but I held up my hand. "I need a minute." I walked out to the backyard, where the remaining party guests were still mingling, unaware that the guests of honor had just imploded. The sight of everyone laughing and celebrating felt surreal, like watching a movie of someone else's life. My best friend Sarah spotted me from across the yard and immediately made her way over. "Madison, where have you been, and where's Jake? People are asking about the toast you two were supposed to give." I looked at her, this person who had been my maid of honor, who had helped me address wedding invitations just last weekend, and realized I had no idea how to explain what had just happened. "There's not going to be a toast," I said simply. "What do you mean? Is everything okay?" Before I could answer, I saw several guests heading toward the house, probably looking for bathrooms or drinks. They were about to walk into the aftermath of our family explosion. "Sarah, I need you to help me end this party. Tell everyone that Jake got called into work for an emergency, and we need to wrap things up." "Madison, you're scaring me. What's really going on?" "I'll explain later. Right now, I just need everyone to go home." Sarah, bless her, didn't ask any more questions. She immediately started circulating through the crowd, spreading the cover story, and encouraging people to head out. Within 30 minutes, the backyard was empty, except for the catering staff cleaning up. I went back inside to find my family exactly where I'd left them, sitting in stunned silence. Chloe was curled up in the corner chair, looking like she wanted to disappear entirely. "The party's over," I announced. "Everyone's gone." "Madison, we need to talk about what happens next," Dad said. "What happens next is that I go upstairs, take off this dress, and try to figure out if I still have a fiancé." "He'll come around," Mom said hopefully. "Once he has time to process everything, he'll realize that what Chloe did doesn't reflect on you." "Doesn't it, though?" I sat down heavily on the couch. "He's probably wondering what kind of family he's marrying into, what kind of dysfunction he's signing up for." "This isn't your fault," my grandmother said firmly. "Maybe not directly, but Chloe is my sister, my twin. If Jake can't trust her, how can he trust that I won't have some kind of breakdown and sabotage our marriage myself?" "That's ridiculous," Dad protested. "You're nothing like—" He stopped himself, glancing at Chloe. "Like me," Chloe finished quietly. "You can say it, Dad. I'm the unstable twin." "You're not unstable," Mom said automatically, but her voice lacked conviction. "Yes, I am. At least right now I am. And Madison's right. This reflects on our whole family. I've probably cost her the love of her life." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. She appeared to have aged in the span of a few hours. Her designer dress was wrinkled, her makeup was completely ruined, and she looked smaller somehow, diminished. "Chloe, I need you to answer something honestly. Was this really just about jealousy, or is there something else? Something you're not telling us?" She was quiet for so long I thought she wasn't going to answer. Then she spoke, so softly we all had to lean in to hear her. "Derek didn't just break up with me. He broke up with me for someone else, someone who reminded him of you." The room went silent again. This was the first any of us had heard about another woman. "What do you mean, reminded him of you?" I asked. "She's blonde like you. She works in marketing like you. She's organized and ambitious and has her whole life mapped out. When he told me about her, he actually said, 'She's like Madison, but available.'" I felt like I'd been slapped. "Chloe, why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because it sounded insane. Because I knew how it would sound. That I blamed you for Derek leaving me. But that's not what happened. I blamed myself for not being enough like you to keep him." My mother made a small sound of distress. "Oh, honey." "So when I saw you and Jake so happy, planning your perfect wedding, it felt like the universe was rubbing it in my face. Like everyone was telling me that Madison types get the happy endings, and Chloe types get left behind." "That's not how the world works," I said, but even as I said it, I wondered if there was some truth to what she was feeling. "Isn't it? Look at our lives, Madison. Really look at them. You've always been the responsible one, the successful one, the one who makes good choices. I'm the one who dropped out of college twice, who's been through 6 jobs in 4 years, who can't maintain a relationship longer than 2 years. You went back to college and finished your degree. You have a good job now. You're in therapy working on yourself." "Yeah, and it took me until age 28 to get my act together. You've been put together since we were 16. Dad leaned forward. "Chloe, your worth isn't determined by comparing yourself to your sister." "I know that intellectually, Dad. But emotionally, it's hard not to feel like the defective twin." I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. Had I somehow contributed to Chloe's feelings of inadequacy? Had I been so focused on my own success that I'd missed how much my sister was struggling? Chloe, I had no idea you felt this way about our relationship. Because I hid it. Because admitting that I was jealous of my own sister felt pathetic. It's not pathetic, it's human. But trying to destroy my relationship because of those feelings, that was wrong. I know, God, I know how wrong it was. I've been sitting here thinking about what Dr. Harrison would say about tonight, and I know she'd be horrified. My grandmother, who had been listening to this exchange with a thoughtful expression, finally spoke up. Chloe, what you did tonight was unforgivable, but the fact that you're able to examine your motivations, to understand where these feelings came from, that tells me you're not beyond redemption. Grandma, I almost destroyed Madison's wedding. Almost, but you didn't. You confessed the truth before any permanent damage was done. Jake laughed. The wedding might be off. How is that not permanent damage? Because if Jake truly loves Madison, he'll work through this. And if he doesn't, then maybe he wasn't the right person for her after all. I stared at my grandmother. Grandma, don't say that. Madison, I've been married for 60 years. I've seen relationships survive much worse than this. But they only survive if both people are committed to working through the hard times together. This is different. This is family betrayal. Yes, it is. And Jake needs to decide if he can accept that your family comes with complications, just like every other family in the world. My phone buzzed with a text message. My heart jumped, hoping it was Jake, but it was from Sarah. Whatever happened tonight, I'm here for you. Call me when you're ready to talk. I realized that I would have to explain this story over and over, to Sarah, to other friends, to extended family members who had been at the party and witnessed the drama. The thought was exhausting. I think I need to go upstairs, I said, standing up slowly. I need to get out of this dress and try to process everything that's happened. Madison, Chloe called as I headed toward the stairs. I know you said we might be able to get past this eventually, but I need you to know. If Jake calls off the wedding because of what I did, I'll never forgive myself. I turned back to look at her. Then you better hope he's a more forgiving person than I am right now. The next 3 days passed in a blur of anxiety and silence. Jake hadn't called, hadn't texted, hadn't responded to the 2 messages I'd sent apologizing for the chaos of Saturday night. I'd taken Monday and Tuesday off work, unable to focus on anything except the growing certainty that my wedding was going to be canceled. Wednesday morning, I was sitting in my apartment kitchen, staring at an untouched cup of coffee, when my phone finally rang. Jake's name appeared on the screen, and my heart started racing. Hello? My voice came out as barely a whisper. Madison, can you meet me somewhere? We need to talk. The formal tone of his voice made my stomach drop. Of course. Where? That coffee shop on 5th Street where we had our first date. Can you be there in an hour? I'll be there. The drive to the coffee shop felt like traveling to my own execution. I kept rehearsing what I might say, how I might convince him that Chloe's betrayal didn't define me or our relationship. But deep down, I was preparing myself for the worst. Jake was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept much either. He stood when he saw me, but didn't move to hug or kiss me like he normally would. Thank you for coming, he said formally, gesturing to the chair across from him. I sat down, my hands trembling slightly. Jake, before you say anything, I need you to know how sorry I am about what happened. I know my family's dysfunction isn't your responsibility to deal with. He held up his hand. Let me talk first, okay? I nodded, bracing myself. I've spent the last 3 days thinking about everything that happened Saturday night. About Chloe's lies. About family dynamics. About trust. About what it means to build a life with someone. He paused, taking a sip of his coffee, and I waited for the blow to fall. I talked to my parents, to my brother Marcus, even to my grandmother. I wanted perspective from people who care about me but aren't emotionally invested in our relationship. What did they say? They all said the same thing, actually. They said that every family has dysfunction, every family has someone who struggles with mental health or jealousy or poor judgment. They said the question isn't whether your family is perfect, it's whether you and I can handle imperfection together. I felt a tiny spark of hope, but I was afraid to let it grow. Madison, what Chloe did was terrible. It was calculated and cruel, and it could have destroyed us. But here's the thing. It didn't destroy us. You fought for us. You challenged her story. You demanded proof. You suggested the polygraph test. You didn't just accept that our relationship was over. Because I knew I was innocent. But more than that, you believed in us. Even when I was doubting you, you never stopped fighting for what we have. Tears started forming in my eyes. Does that mean? It means that if you're willing to work with me on setting some boundaries with Chloe, if you're willing to consider couples counseling to help us navigate family issues, and if you're willing to postpone the wedding by a few months so we can rebuild the trust that was damaged, then yes, I still want to marry you. Relief flooded through me so powerfully that I started crying right there in the coffee shop. Yes to all of that. Jake, I thought I'd lost you. He reached across the table and took my hands. You didn't lose me, but we both learned something important about how to protect our relationship from outside interference. What kind of boundaries are you thinking about with Chloe? She needs to prove she's serious about therapy. She needs to make amends not just to us, but to your whole family for what she put everyone through. And she needs to understand that she's not going to be in our inner circle until she demonstrates real change. That seems fair. What about the wedding? I was thinking we could postpone it until fall. That gives us time for counseling, time for Chloe to work on herself, and time for everyone to heal from what happened. I nodded eagerly. I'll call the vendors today and see what we can rearrange. Actually, there's something else. I want to take that polygraph test. I stared at him. What? Why? Because I want there to be absolutely no doubt, no lingering questions, no what-ifs. I want us to go into marriage knowing that we've put this completely behind us. Jake, you believe me now. You know Chloe was lying. I do believe you, but I also know that somewhere in the back of my mind, there might always be a tiny sliver of doubt if we don't put this to rest scientifically. And I don't want that doubt affecting our marriage. The fact that he was being so honest about his feelings, even the uncomfortable ones, made me love him even more. Okay, if that's what you need, then let's do it. And I want Chloe to take one too. I want her to publicly admit her lies under scientific conditions. I want there to be consequences for what she did. She's already facing consequences. The whole family is barely speaking to her. That's not enough. She tried to destroy our relationship with calculated lies. There need to be real, lasting consequences, or she'll think she can manipulate people whenever her mental health struggles get difficult. I thought about this. Part of me wanted to protect Chloe, to help her through her obvious psychological crisis. But Jake was right. Without consequences, she might view this as a temporary setback rather than a serious wake-up call. You're right. Let's set up the polygraph tests. 2 weeks later, we found ourselves in a sterile office building, sitting across from a certified polygraph examiner named Dr. Patricia Williams. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who had administered thousands of tests for law enforcement and private clients. Chloe sat beside me, looking pale and nervous. She'd agreed to the test reluctantly, and only after Dad threatened to cut off the financial support he'd been providing for her therapy sessions. We'll start with Madison, Dr. Williams announced, attaching the various sensors and monitors. The questions will be straightforward and direct. Jake sat in the observation area with my parents, watching through a one-way window. Chloe remained in the testing room, required to witness my examination. Did you engage in any romantic or sexual activity with anyone other than Jake during your trip to Atlanta? Dr. Williams asked. No. Did you have any inappropriate contact with another man during your Atlanta conference? No. Have you ever been unfaithful to Jake during your relationship? No. The questions continued for 20 minutes, covering every aspect of the alleged cheating incident. When it was over, Dr. Williams reviewed the results immediately. No deception indicated in any response, she announced. Madison answered all questions truthfully. I felt vindicated, but also exhausted. Having to prove my innocence scientifically felt surreal. Then it was Chloe's turn. She looked terrified as the sensors were attached. Were you in Atlanta during the weekend of Madison's conference? Dr. Williams began. No. The machine immediately registered a deception. Did you see Madison with another man in Atlanta? No. Another clear indication of deception. Did you fabricate the story about witnessing Madison's alleged infidelity? Chloe hesitated for a long moment. Yes. No deception indicated, Dr. Williams confirmed. The questions continued, establishing definitively that Chloe had lied about everything. When it was over, she was crying quietly. The results are conclusive, Dr. Williams told everyone in the room. Madison was truthful in all her responses. Chloe was deceptive about witnessing any infidelity, but truthful when she admitted to fabricating the story. Jake looked relieved but also sad. I'm sorry we had to put you through this, Madison. It's okay, now we all know the truth and we can move forward. Chloe spoke up from the examination chair. Jake, I know my apology doesn't mean much at this point, but I need you to know that I understand what I almost destroyed. You two have something special, and I let my own pain make me want to tear that down. I'm going to keep working with Dr. Harrison, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to earn back your trust and Madison's. Jake nodded slowly. I appreciate that, Chloe, but words aren't enough anymore. I need to see sustained change over time. I understand. 6 months later, Jake and I were married in a small ceremony with immediate family only. Chloe was there, but not as a bridesmaid. That honor went to Sarah, who had stood by me through the entire ordeal. Chloe had continued her therapy religiously, had started taking medication for depression, and had begun volunteering at a crisis counseling center to help others work through their mental health struggles. Hell, our relationship was different now, more cautious, but also more honest. The experience had taught us both that love alone isn't enough to sustain a marriage. You also need trust, communication, and the ability to weather storms together. As for Chloe and me, we were slowly rebuilding our relationship. It would never be the same as it was before. That innocent, unquestioning twin bond was gone forever. But maybe what we were building now was stronger, based on honest communication rather than assumptions about unconditional loyalty. The polygraph results had given us all the closure we needed. Sometimes the truth really can set you free, even when that truth is more complicated than you ever imagined it could be. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.